I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am. This is a piece called Carrey, We're All Broken. It represents all the different modes of life and all the different people and all the different things we go through. But it's important to remember, especially for me, I would never show up anywhere if I didn't understand that everyone was broken in some way. You know, what am I is the central question. You know, why am I here? What am I? You know. Don't get me wrong, you know, Jim Carrey is a great character, and I was lucky to get the part. But I don't think of that as me anymore.
It showed me that there were characters being played everywhere. As an actor, you play characters, and then if you go deep enough into those characters, you realize that your own character is pretty thin to begin with.
You know, and a lot of the characters I've done so far have been about duality, about what you show the world and what you really are. So I've always been trying to reconcile the two. Oh, I was two people my whole life. I was in the living room entertaining people, being a monkey, you know, doing my thing for the company and trying to relieve my mother who was suffering. She had rheumatoid arthritis and phlebitis and everything under the sun that was nagging at her, and she was depressed. And I wanted her to be free. I am at the top of the mountain, and I was, and the only one I hadn't freed was myself, and that's when my search for identity deepened. I wondered who I'd be without my fame. Who would I be if I said things that people didn't want to hear? Or if I defied their expectations of me? I found myself subjugating Jim Carrey for Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton, and then at the end of it looking for Jim Carrey again and having trouble finding him.
You know, and then you suddenly have this separation and go, who's Jim Carrey? Oh, he doesn't exist, actually.
I don't exist. They're all characters that I played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters. No, I'm not always happy, that's for sure. Happy's the weather. And, but I do live in a sunny place. Right. Yeah, I just have enough rain to let the flowers grow. But,
you know,
depression only happens when you don't accept what is, and when you're playing a character, you know, in life. So when I tried to go back and play Jim Carrey, I got depressed, and now I don't try to do that anymore. To find real peace, you have to let the armor go. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory. My father was not only the funniest man in the room, but he was a fantastic saxophone player. And before I was born, he had an orchestra in Toronto. But, you know, in order to be something special, you had to leave Canada and come down to the States and prove yourself in the States. He was a little bit afraid of that transition, and also he had a family to take care of, so he became an accountant. And as time wore on, it wore him down, and he got a little bit bitter, especially when he lost his job when he was 51.
Well, you know, when my father lost his job, I was pissed. You know, it was like one of those things. My dad, how dare the universe?
The thing was, he wasn't happy. He would come home and just, you know, that damn guy, man, I tell you, one of these days, I'm gonna, you know.
Right.
So I don't know what happened. That really broke him. Not only was he compromising to raise a family, but when you compromise and you fail, it really hurts. It hurts even more than failing at what you love.
And a lot of people don't know this, but when I was about 14 or 15, my father lost his job, and I actually became homeless for quite some time. Of course, I grew up in Canada, so I thought we had just gone camping, you know.
All you know is you ended up living in a car.
Exactly. For a while, we pitched a tent on my sister's lawn in the country. And then for a while, we went to campsites around, you know, Ontario. You know, we'd use the facilities there. And my father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. It's like my old man didn't get to see everything, but he did for me. I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever. And I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things. They're out there, I just don't
have a hold of them yet, but they're out there.
So your dad was the janitor, your mom was the
We
janitor,
were
and you were the
janitors
janitor.
and security guards / security guards. And every day,
whole family.
my father would come to relieve me from my 8-hour shift, and there would be a new hole in the wall in the office, shaped like my fist. I'd have some trumped up excuse. The buffer, it flew out of my hand.
But you would punch the walls. You were so
Oh
angry.
yeah, man. The factory workers used to mess with my head by like taking, defecating in the sink, or I had to clean it all, man.
Oy vey.
I had to do the whole thing, but the whole time I was singing and I was dreaming.
I really want to speak to the fact that I've had some challenges in the last couple of years myself. Ultimately, I believe that suffering leads to salvation. We have to somehow accept, not deny, but feel our suffering and feel our losses. Thought is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience. It does allow you to separate who you truly are and what's real from the stories that run through your head. You have given them the ability to walk behind the mind's elaborate set decoration and to see that there's a huge difference between a dog that is going to eat you in your mind and an actual dog that is going to eat you. I believe that peace lies beyond personality, beyond invention and disguise, beyond the red S that you wear on your chest that makes bullets bounce off. I believe that it's deeper than that. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself.
The hardest part about show business is acting off camera, because there are a lot of times when you have to act off camera. You can't always be your authentic self, which feels the best, really. But it's when you're not being yourself is when it becomes tough. It's like, so I have a new rule in my life, and that is I only act in the movies.
It's what's happening right now inside everybody is they're going, who am I? And they're depressed, a lot of people, because they're trying to hold up an image in the world. And that's what depression is. People go like, oh, Jim's been depressed and stuff. Well, yeah, I was depressed when I was trying to be the Wizard of Oz instead of the sweaty guy behind the curtain. But now I know that Oz is a character, and I think everybody deals with that. Everybody walks around and they go like, why am I depressed? Well, it's because you're trying to be something for the world, and as soon as you let that go, better things happen because they're just happening, but it's not, now it's just sadness. Sadness comes, happiness comes, it's weather that flies by in the sky. It doesn't sit on you long enough to drown you. People talk about depression all the time. The difference between depression and sadness is just, from happenstance, whatever happened or didn't happen for you, grief or whatever it is. And depression is your body saying, fuck you, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me. So a friend of mine who's a spiritual teacher has a really good take. His name is Jeff Foster, and his take on it is that they should change depressed as deep rest. Deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play.
Right.
The great and powerful Oz. I'm the great and powerful Oz. How dare you come near me? Kind of thing. And you're just the sweaty guy behind the curtain going, I used to be a guy who was experiencing the world, and now I feel like the world and the universe experiencing a guy. I'm just excited, really, about always changing, about crossing back and forth across the river and throwing the hounds off the trail. I love that.
Just when we think we've got you, we know you, you're off on another route.
Absolutely. And if I feel like I've been figured out, boy, look out. I will become something completely different. Maybe I might not want to become something completely different, but express something completely different. I always felt like if the world is going crazy, I'll be calm. And if they're calm, I'll be the one hanging off the chandelier. We are babysat by the television. We're taught how to think by the television. That's the dangerous thing about what's going on right now. There are generations growing up right now who are learning to lie. That lying is okay. That this
Kids say fake news.
That you're supposed to hate half the country. You know? And if anything, we've got to get back to a place where we realize that a vote is not who you are. Now, fear is going to be a player in your life. But you get to decide how much.
You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it.
I really took on a pretty big challenge trying to do my speech in French. So, I wrote it and I researched it and I practiced it like crazy. But, it's, then I watched everybody like talking 1,000 miles an hour up there, receiving their awards. And I was like, I'm dead. And I made mistakes and I was like a novice, but I felt a lot of love.
Mr. Carrey, Jim, the avatar, Jim Carrey, the soul that came here to teach us so much. I'm calling out to you. I want to ask you what's happening. You just heard all that. You had your finger on the pulse of what it really means to be here. I just want to know what happened to you. If they've killed you, if they've imprisoned you, if they have you sort of tucked away for some sort of sacrifice on the blood moon. I just want to know. I'll give you a full 5 minutes just to say everything you want to say, but just please let us know. If you're dead, where's your body? If you're alive and imprisoned, where are you? If you're dead, who killed you? And if you're on the other side, let us know if there's any other message you need us to get out to the world. Starting now.
Ces messieurs-là. Remarkable. Très magnifique.
Because I made they haven't. C'est fou quand the Iranian people. Mars à 14.
And wireless company.
Jim?
In the next. It's your family.
Less than a minute now. Tell us everything.
C'est d'ailleurs la raison. 716.
Thank you, Jim. Here's my findings for my session with Jim Carrey. Now, this is all allegedly because this could really come back to bite me in the proverbial butt, both logistically, legally, and possibly physically. And Jim did warn me about putting this out, that I might be putting my ass on the line doing that. But I'm going to put it out anyway. So my findings are that the spirits told me that Jim had attended a party. Someone he trusted, you guys can read it for yourself, who manages him, kind of pushed him to go. And he ended up at gunpoint by a certain individual. I don't know who it is for sure, who was holding him at gunpoint. But that individual got someone else to hold the gun and it went off by accident. And either that individual that was holding the gun that suggested he go brought along a date named Chelsea, or Jim did. And that person ended up losing their life as well. There were other people at the party that know this and they're keeping their mouth shut about it. The timeline is possibly, it said May 1st, but I'm not sure, of 2025. And where, again, was a party, but I don't know why. P. Diddy's name keeps coming up because he was incarcerated by that point. So maybe it was something to do with his sort of parties. Anyway, so, yeah. So, yeah. That's, the spirits are saying he's no longer with us. He's saying he's no longer with us. And he's also saying something about his sister. Maybe his sister's being suppressed or guarded or whatever, so she doesn't admit it's not him. I don't know. So I'll leave the rest up to your interpretation. Okay, bye.